and how we set these things up, and some of the best practices that we've been using in order to roll out multiple offers, new listings, and stuff like that. So I want to break this into a couple of pieces here for the mastermind. The first part is pre-launch expectations. So conversations that we have with our sellers in order to prep them for what may be coming down the pipeline. And then the second is the actual launch. So plan and mechanics. And then the last part is how we handle or communicate with the multiple bids. Because if you drop the ball on any one of these, you can completely, hurt yourself and hurt your seller, of course.
And Bill, I just want to let you know, we've got about 8 or 9 people watching on Facebook Live right now. So I commented in the chat box, if there's questions that come up while they're watching this, to type them in there. So I'll let you know if things come up as other people come on.
Awesome. Yeah. So, we welcome that input, thoughts, ideas as we go along. Anybody on Zoom or over there on Facebook, if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat as we talk along. So even if we just have a little gap, we'll jump back in. For this particular mastermind, I'm going to lean on people that I know are managing listings right now, right? So that our information is super, super relevant to the market right now, the moment right now. So I know Pat's on here. She's been dealing with a lot. Tina Fascia, I'm not sure if Tina is open to microphone or not if I ask some questions, but I might reach out to you here in a little bit, Tina. Essentially, those 3 parts are really the first 3 things. So Pat, maybe you can tell me what are the expectations that you're setting in the minds of your sellers prior to going on the market in anticipation for multiple bids potentially?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on the price range. First of all, I have been using, for the last 2 listings, I have been using your whole launch thing with Tuesday and, to go live on Saturday. But what I'm starting to find that's bouncing back at me is, and they don't necessarily know this yet, is, so I'll have my photos of coming soon, and then I'll get a rush of people basically from our office. Can you get me in? Can you get me in? So then, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of it. So that's what I'm having a little bit of a challenge with right now, because the rule is Saturday, and so far I haven't broke the rule, but I'm not going to lie, it's a little tough.
Well, yeah, I mean, so we actually then, in that case, you would just extend it even further, right? Once you go live, you can't let anybody in on a coming soon. But that doesn't mean you can't open it to the office prior to that. And, that's something that we on the team, every Monday, we're on the horn. We talk about listings we have coming the next couple of weeks so that people are aware of that. And in some cases, we do get traffic in before, it hits the market. But
the problem is once I've had that whole launch conversation with them and say photos are a week out, and then the first showing is, so maybe we're talking 10 days to 2 weeks. How do I go back to that seller and say, since I've had this whole spectacular launch conversation with you, now I have 3 people from my office that want to get in?
Yeah. So, first of all, it's a great question, and it's a position I've been in a lot lately, and COVID makes it a little easier. So this is less of a sales technique than something functional, and I think it's more of an ask them. And most sellers, in my experience, have acquiesced to where the conversation is along the lines of, hey, look, I know we were set to go live next Tuesday, do delayed showings to Saturday, and try to gather as much energy as possible. I do have a couple of agents from the office who have buyers that might be willing to get in, a little early. If it means avoiding a ton of people coming through, and perhaps having the opportunity to get a new number before we open the doors to the public, is that something you would consider? And you can also have the discussion at a reduced commission rate, right? I mean, you could say, you know, and if we don't have to go through the launch process, there might be some flexibility in commission, right? If we didn't actually launch it. So if you knock a 0.5% off and then you're able to do it prior to launch, you know, that might be a conversation to have. I'd be careful with that because you don't want to set it up. So it's like, hey,
Exactly.
you know, I'll do this if you do that kind of thing. But, you know, for me, I would just lean on COVID and preference. Like, I know we talked about getting as much energy around the listing as possible and driving as much traffic there as possible. But if some people want to get in early and see the property, potentially give you a good number without having a bunch of people come through, or maybe a great number, would you be interested in letting people in early, right? And let them make that decision. So now it's not you pushing for it. And some people might be like, yeah, sure. I don't want to wait, right? You know, honey, if we can avoid having 50 people through here and somebody gives us a really great number, you know, maybe somebody gives 5,000 over to shut it down. And if that, you know, if that makes them comfortable, then that's their choice. I think if we get into, hey, I got somebody that really wants to see it on Thursday, you know, you guys should let them in. That's kind of counter what we had said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think the expectations prior to the launch are really important, guys, to set up that the market's really busy, but the homes that are seeing multiple bids are actually the homes that are still priced well, right? Really well. What we're starting to see is people, and I'm like, Gary Keller does these experiments with his own market centers to see if they work. So I do it with my own house to see if that works. We're starting to see some people start to price these homes really high on the max side of the bidding war. And guess what? They're sitting. They're not moving. So if we get ahead of that market, and it's important that we convey this to a seller, that if we get ahead of the market and it doesn't sell, now you're the one that's sitting out there not selling in the market where everything's bidding, then there's really got to be something wrong, right? And I'll use my house for an example. A month ago, I said to my wife, look, I'm going to pick a crazy number with what's going on. I'm going to put my house out there at that. If it sells, that'd be amazing. If it doesn't, I'm fine with it. I'm going to let it run 3-4 weeks and see what happens. So I put it on at a really high price. Believe it or not, I got 19 showings, which blows my mind. Because if I put it up at this price last year, I promise you I would not have had one showing. I got one offer that was full price. It was a contingent offer, and it ended up falling apart. But I didn't get a bidding war. I didn't get all this energy building up around it. And now my house is sitting there 3 weeks later, and people are asking questions. Why hasn't it sold? It looks perfect, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's because the price is way high. Mm-hmm. Potentially, right? If there's 1 or 2 closing cycles that happen, it might not be that high. And if it does end up going through, you know, that could work, you know, to the favor of somebody who bought it if the market continues to go up, I presume. But it's all about what somebody's willing to pay. My point being is I outpriced the market and nothing happened. If I would have priced my house at $575, $599, it would have been a zoo, right? And a whole bunch of offers. So perfect example of the fact that you have to be careful when you tell a seller how exciting the market is right now, because if they want you to go on and price too high, and if you're basically I see some agents almost guaranteeing bidding wars and they don't come, you're going to look really bad. And then you're going to be sitting trying to talk them into a price reduction in a time where the market is clicking on all cylinders. That's a tough spot to be in. So make sure that your pre-listing conversations about pricing are really focused on the market's driving price up. In some cases, 40, 50, 70 grand over asking, but only when a house is priced properly to begin with. If we're pricing it 70 grand over, that excitement, that energy is not there. So that's the pre-launch expectations. And of course, you let people know our job, our goal is to create as much energy around the listing as possible, potentially create a bidding war and drive that price up. What I can tell you is we're going to do everything we can to drive as much traffic there as possible. And I do know that if it doesn't go over asking in this current market, then it really wouldn't have in the past, right? So set those expectations and make sure that no seller is expecting a bidding war. Let it be a surprise. Let them know it could be a possibility, because if you don't tell them that's going to happen, next thing you know, they're going to tell you you underpriced it. But make sure that they don't have those expectations there. The first part of preparing for a healthy bidding war is preparing your seller to be realistic, right? There are people right now declining full price offers. They have 10 showings in the first couple of days. They get a full price offer and they don't want to take it because they want to get the bidding war going. That is just someone who does not have a solid understanding of, you know, how the basic sales process works, and the fact that those people didn't feel that the property was worth more. And that could be a real tough spot to be in.
Well, I was going to say, I think you still have to have the same conversations with your sellers that you've always had. You know, that it's price, that it's condition, that it's staging and decluttering. And like, you have to still have all those same conversations. And in addition to, you know, that if you don't have all those pieces, there's no way you're getting a bidding war.
Right. Yep. Agreed. So the second part, which is going to take a little more time to talk through, and then the third one is the communication with the multiple offers, is our actual launch plan. And I'm going to share my thoughts, and then I'm going to open it up for anybody to have their input. But what we've been doing for the last 2.5, 3 months right now is, and I've said this, I feel like it is our job as listing agents right now to slow this process down. Slow it down. We had a buyer recently on a property. We went in day one, the doors open. We gave them 25. The property was significantly underpriced. We gave them 25 over asking to shut it down, shut the whole thing down. And guess what? They did it. They wouldn't let anybody else into this place. And for that reason, the buyer, in my opinion, got a steal, because that property would have gone easily 50 grand over the asking price. So that agent did not do a rollout in a way that would protect the seller's bottom line. And for that reason, ended up getting, in my opinion, far less for the home and for the client than they could have. Just putting a home on the market now and letting free reign happen as if this were spring of last year, I think is doing our clients a real disservice. And it's also setting you up for a lot of headaches. You have to, when you launch a listing in today's market, have a process, a prepared process together, and make sure that those expectations are understood by everybody. So the way that ours is going right now, mine personally, so I know some people on the team have little tweaks to this, but it's launch Tuesday or Wednesday latest. Coming soon to that Saturday. Saturday showings begin, okay? In some cases, we have an open house Sunday, so we'll delay it to the open on Sunday. But showings begin on Saturday for the most part. We also make it clear to anybody who's expressing interest in the house that we will not be looking at, considering, or reviewing any offers until Monday. As realtors, it's our obligation to always pass along an offer within 24 hours. But we can set the expectation with the other agent that we're not going to be reviewing anything until Monday earliest. That takes out the possibility of these agents coming flying in saying, hey, here's a full price. Here's 5,000 over. Take this thing off the market. Shut it down. It also takes the stress out of the situation where your seller is in the driver's seat right now, has all the strength in the world. When we allow a buyer to come in minute one, day one, and make an offer, they took that strength away from your seller. You should not allow them to take that strength away from your seller, because now your seller is the one making a decision like, oh my God, what if I don't take it? What if that offer doesn't show up again? What if I end up losing 10 grand? Fine, I'll go with it. We set the stage that'll dictate what happens. So we say, we're not calling for highest and best on Monday. We're not calling for you to submit your highest and best now. Although I would try to be competitive, because on Monday, if somebody comes in with an insanely good number, who knows what the seller is going to do. But what I am saying is that we'll look at what's on the table on Monday and then make a decision as to how we're going to handle offers. So by that time, we now launched Tuesday. It's now Monday. We're looking at offers. We have 1 week's marketing time already under our belt before we've already looked at it. For those of you guys who are doing a lot of social media marketing and promotion and stuff like that, this is gold, because it gives you a lot of time to generate leads. It gives you time to plug into Command's Lead Accelerator. Like, you can actually market this listing. And if you're doing our listing presentation where it's about being in front of as many people as possible, then this is all part of that rollout, to where you are making sure that you're in front of as many people as possible, instead of maybe being super limited to just the buyers that come through. And then on Monday, if you have multiples, it's almost like allowing you to call for highest and best without actually calling for highest and best. Because if you don't have multiples Monday, well, then it's easy. Then you can negotiate one. Or if you have two and one's terrible and one's really good, maybe you just negotiate the really good one. But if you have multiple offers, and my philosophy is, and I always say this to sellers, do not ever call for highest and best unless you have at least two that you would accept. Because, and sometimes even that's dangerous, because if they disappear, guess what you got? Nothing. So if there's one good one and one crappy one, and you go and tell all the agents, I want highest and best, dude, Wednesday, 5 p.m., Thursday, 5 p.m., and the good one's like, we're out. We're not being in a bidding war. Now you're stuck with just your crappy one. Now you call for highest and best. You burn that bridge and you have nothing left. So I say at least two alternatives. Now, most of the time coming on a Monday now, you're going to have multiples. So now you call for that highest and best. That highest and best in our world is due either Wednesday or Thursday at 5 p.m. And that gives us now another 3 days, 4 days. So we're just created a world where a lot of agents are click and go. I see agents launching listings without pictures even up, which is, that's a whole nother story we got to talk through. But they're allowing showings right away. Somebody walks in, makes an offer, and it's off the market. Here you've done the same, taken the same house and stretched it to a 1.5 week bidding process. That move alone could net your clients $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And creating that environment to create that energy, drive the price up, and giving the market time to talk through it. You're also giving the buyers time to think through it. If they want to back out, good, let them back out. When you give somebody a 2-day window, highest and best due by end of day tomorrow, people make decisions that are made in the moment instead of thinking things through. And I guarantee you, people who are doing that right now, their fallout rate and their contract fallout rate is much higher than people who are making it, stretching it out so that the people who are still there on the last day of the bidding war have thought it through and they're committed to that property. Pat, what are your thoughts on that, on the actual launch plan, the mechanics, stretching it out?
I'm sorry, I was texting somebody. I was half listening to you, Bill.
That's okay.
I've heard this.
Okay.
I've heard your whole launch thing before.
Yeah.
I've been using it. I told you I've been using it.
Right.
Actually, what I'm doing as we speak, I'm getting in touch with the one seller that people that want to get in her house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Lines. I love it. Francis, do you have volume here?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So it's interesting to hear you say this, because I had heard you say this before, right, to me about doing the not reviewing until Monday, and then I put in a listing last week and I forgot to put that in there. And I had the most interesting thing. So we listed it the same day I listed it on Wednesday in the system. I get an offer. There's no showings until the next day beginning. I get an over asking solid buyer presenting an offer without seeing it. And so, and then the next day I'm getting the one that's sending an offer and saying, here's my crappy offer, by the way, on that one, and I want you to pull it off the market, because that wasn't even a good offer, right? Kind of making demands. So I definitely said that's not happening to me again. It's definitely going to say, offers are being reviewed. Now, the only thing I do differently is I allow showings to begin like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. In this case, my client didn't even want to show it anymore after Saturday night, and we put in a few showings on Sunday morning, and he stopped. He had a bunch of offers, and he was happy with what he had. Do a highest and best, right? So this was interesting this week, very different than what I normally do. I had realtors reach out to me Friday night that they were submitting an offer. I had realtors Saturday saying they were going to submit an offer. So we waited. My client really waited last night. He was like, well, I have offers I like, but we'll wait, till, and then they didn't send anything. And he decided to go with what he originally was going to go with, right? Now today they're all reaching out to me and they're all kind of saying like, oh, but you didn't do highest and best. Oh, you did. I'm sorry, I'm not babysitting you. If you showed a house on Friday and you sent me a text on Friday saying you were going to submit an offer, maybe your people changed their mind, maybe whatever, right? Like I tell my agents, if you see a house you like, so I'm curious to see what you, if you see a house you like and it says we're not reviewing offers till Monday and everybody's assuming you're doing a highest and best next week, but how about that one seller you have, Bill, that says to you, well, I just bought a house in Florida this week and I don't want 2 mortgages. And I'm actually really okay with these 2 offers. And I don't want to lose him. And I want you to take that offer. That's what happened to me this week.
Yeah. And I
That
think
happened too.
I think that's fine. I think that's good. And I set those expectations, right? So most of the time I am verbally having these conversations with anybody who's calling and saying they're interested. Okay. Just to be fair, I want to make it clear that to be fair to all the buyers, my seller's not going to be reviewing any offers till Monday. We need to make sure that the seller is on board with that, by the way. We can't just say that, right? So we tell the seller, with your permission, I'd like to spread it out so no buyers come in, muscle us around, and try to take our strength away. Let's get everybody in, and then let's look at what's sitting there on Monday. In those conversations with the agents, I make it very clear, we're not calling for highest and best. We're not calling for highest and best. We're going to look at what's on paper Monday and make a decision as to how we're going to proceed. If it's competitive, we may call for highest and best. If somebody comes in and blows everybody out of the water, then we won't, right? Then my seller may just take that. So if we lay it out that way, then the guy who the seller might have gone with Friday, now he's just going to go with it Monday. So at least it bought us that extra time. The problem is if we don't convey that up front, when people make the full price, if we then try to tell them that we're not going to answer, right, or accept, then they start to get upset, right? And we ruin the potential positive energy between buyer and seller right out of the gate. Because if a buyer comes in and they say, all right, full price, day one, they should take that. Oh, you're not going to take it? What? You're going to shop my offer now for 4 days, right? And they start to get negative about it, and that can cause that challenge. So by stretching it with the expectations clearly communicated that we're not calling for highest and best, no one's expecting it. Send in your offer. I would make it a good offer, right? Understand that we're just going to look at what we got Monday and make a decision. It may go to highest and best. They may have something that's really good and they'll decide on it Monday. What I've noticed in doing that is you actually get higher offers out of the gate rather than all these people playing this, hey, I'm going to sit back and, all right, I'm going to come in entry level and then give you my highest and best. I don't understand why. If they think they have the ability to shut it down, then they can't. We also know that just by allowing us to stretch that time frame, we're getting more traffic through, which is more potential offers down the road. So even if that seller in your case makes the decision to go with one of those offers, then somebody else could effectively during attorney review come in with something higher, right? Be like, oh my God, I missed out. As opposed to being muscled around day one where they want you to shut the door and those other people never even seeing it. What I'm also seeing is these people winning these bidding wars, all of a sudden getting fangs in attorney review, right? Because they think they won or they came in and gave the seller everything to shut this thing down. Now they're trying to swing it back and take control later. And they can do that if we allowed them to take all the strength at the beginning. If we shut everything down, we didn't let anybody else in after 2 days on the market and all that, the buyer's going to be of the opinion that there's no other options for a seller. If we knew we had 15 showings in, I had this recently happen on one in Riverdale. I had 9 offers. the winning offer said that they had nothing to sell. They would close in 30 days and rent it back to us. In attorney review, they said they have a contingency to sell their home that's not even on the market yet.
Yeah.
They won a bidding war. Well, at that point, I had told everybody, and that's another part of communication, which I'll get into, is how and when to communicate to everybody on this stuff. But that almost had the whole thing fall apart. But luckily, I had a second and third backup. Boom, I went right to them and was able to get actually an even better offer in place. So by allowing the longer showings, and this is how you get your seller on board with you, right? If we have a seller who doesn't want to deal with the headache because they think they're going to get the same no matter what, they might just want to shut it down in a week, but they don't know what's best for them. If we explain to them that our goal is to get as many people in, because if God forbid something goes wrong with the offer that you choose, you need to have adequate and substantial backup in today's market. Because if we have to come back on and start all over, that could be, a whole nother issue, never mind the time related there. So my suggestion is that we see this whole process through. Let's look at the offers that we have on Monday. If you love one, we might just take it. If it's a cash offer, it's super high, all the contingencies are gone, we could take that and move forward. If there's a couple that are competitive, then maybe we just call for highest and best and try to create a bidding war. How does that sound, Mr. Seller? Get them on board with you. That's your first buy-in, because if your seller's got your back, then you don't have to worry about getting muscled around by the buyers or the buyer's agents. Any other feedback, thoughts, or experience on that, guys? I love when you're telling me stories that happened, right? Because these are real instances that are coming up now, and it's good that people can hear them and talk through, okay, here's how I would address that, or here's how I would not.
Bill, we had twice this week what Francis was saying, where the house was on the market maybe 2 days and they just shut it down. No more showings, no more offers. I had one last week. I was there the first day it went on, and by 4:00, when I was getting the disclosure to send over the offer, it was already shut down in a matter of no more than 5 hours or so. Sophia had one last week too in Montville, where, sometimes when, these were not even calling for highest and best, but I have to rethink what I do with highest and best now too, because, if it's Monday at 5, I would usually send it in right before Monday at 5. But now, because I don't want them to work my offer against somebody else's, but now I'm starting to second guess that, because, right, even if they are calling for highest and best, it's like the Wild West out there right now. Who knows that they're not going to decide Sunday morning, never mind, we shut it down.
And that was going to be my question, Bill. What are you telling your team? Because I have been really adamant about telling my team, Pat, just this. I don't care if it says highest and best on Wednesday or Monday, because if an offer comes in that's good enough and you have a seller like my seller, that he was also nervous that, I don't want to lose this buyer. I just bought a house in Florida this week and I don't want 2 mortgages. Thank goodness that I was like, listen, we need to have backups. We need to continue showing it for the next 2 or 3 days. Let's put it, and now, you know what, today I have 7 offers, right? And he was ready to shut it down on that first offer because it was way over asking, 20% down. And funny story is, until the buyer went on Facebook and posted on the Clifton community page about solar panels and asking everybody, and by the way, realtors, be really, really careful in a chat like that on Facebook what you say and put out there, because apparently some realtors were giving all kinds of crazy advice. To say the least, my seller did not go with that offer.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah.
That buyer really almost like shot themselves in the foot by their actions and their posts on Facebook in the community they were buying.
Wow. Interesting.
Going with their offer.
Yeah. These are why
it's crazy times. Like, but
my
point is, we're not waiting. We are, if we show the house Friday and when you walk out and you like it, don't go have dinner. Don't go hang out. Don't go. Because I feel like that's what happened to 2 of the realtors this weekend, Friday night and Saturday night, that text me. Then they went to hang out the rest of the weekend. And suddenly it's Monday. Now they're back to work. And now we're going to send an offer making assumptions. Don't assume, right? We already had 5 acceptable offers that he would have taken.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, definitely. And that's, I think right now, we're trying to jump on it as early as possible. So I know, Stephanie, Donna, are my two buyers agents that, do 30, 40 transactions a year. Both of them, they get in that situation. The majority of the time they're bringing it, and they're bringing it quick to try and mute, any other options, or at least to come in with an impressive stance. You do have the risk of your, other agents shopping it, but you can also scare people away with that. If you come in with something way over asking, the other agent could be like, well, I got, something way over asking. That might actually scare some other people away. And depending on what some of the other terms are in your offer, that can help. Another thing we've seen on on the listing side is I've seen twice people win the bidding war and then terminate because another one of their offers got selected, right? Within days. I mean, we were in day 2 of attorney review, and not even any shame. They're like, oh, one of the other houses they bid on selected theirs. So they put out a whole bunch of offers on a whole bunch of properties. They won this bidding war, won that bidding war, won that bidding war, and then, chose the one that worked best for them. So this is why I'm imploring to you guys on the listing side of this thing, slow it down. Even if our sellers want to go with something right away, they don't always know what's in their best interest. If they absolutely, are passionate, adamant about it, then you do it. But we have to explain to them what's happening right now. And if we do that and then ruin our entire launch and now have to start all over, in one of those situations, I had to start all over again. And it was now 3 weeks later that we got another offer, and it's 30 grand less, and they're taking it, right? So that person who came in did quite a bit of damage to the seller and winning that first bidding war and then taking off. So we gotta, be very aware of this. And the more we can coach our sellers and how to put this out there, and then coach and walk people through that bidding process at the beginning and stretching it out, giving ourselves time, I want at least 2 good backups. That's my biggest goal. Get an offer and 2 good backups before I go under contract so that I can keep them close to me. In certain cases where I think volatility is inevitable, I even touch base with the backups. Traditionally, you have one shot at reaching out to a backup again. What does that mean? That means 3 weeks have passed and your buyers start to be a pain in the neck in inspections, right? And you pick up the phone and you're like, hey, I'm just checking to see if your buyer's still there, right? And they're like, oh my God, my buyers, yeah, they're still there. They love the house. They're ready to go. That's your one shot. So be careful when you use that, because if you now don't give it to them and then you try that again in a week, they're going to be like, I'm not dealing with these people. I've seen it play out a million times. The only way to get around that is to have systematic touches. So if you have a bidding war and you feel that there's volatility or a massive chance of an underappraisal or something is not 100% comfortable with the winning bid, keep the second and third offers and touch base with those agents every week. Make that part of your process. My follow-up process with my under contracts is every Tuesday I touch every one of my under contracts. So if I have this, I will also touch the backups of them and just say, hey, I know I told you we'd keep you as backup, as a service to you and your buyers. I just want to let you know we're still proceeding as normal. I'll let you know if anything changes. Hey, I'm just checking in to, let you know that I still have your offer here as backup position. If anything changes, please let me know. That way you're actually up to speed with all that. If the buyer acts up or sneezes wrong and in that moment you have 2 backups, that puts you in such a better position than reaching out to them and asking if they're there and maybe wasting your turn, because maybe you get through inspections. The buyer's like, all right, forget it. I'm not playing their games. And now you have an appraisal issue a couple weeks later. You could then lose your backups and not handling that process the way that you could best do it. So there's something to be said about the strength that comes along with backups. And then there's something to be said about the weakness that comes along with not having any backup. And how we communicate that to a seller is likely to dictate how likely they are to go with the longer rolled out launch plan, or just make an agreement because it's easiest and they don't have to deal with it in the moment.
So Bill, I have a question. I saw someone ask us, has your client put any offers on any other properties at the same time in reference to this, right?
Yeah.
Will you write for one client? We just had a client last week wanting to write literally at the same time offers on 2 different houses. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, we followed up with the board. I'll tell you right now, I'm not a fan of putting multiple offers in on properties. Something just doesn't feel right about that to me. However, people will argue that with me, and they have every right to. We did check with Mary at the board. There's nothing ethically or legally wrong with putting 10 offers in on 10 properties at the same time from the board's viewpoint. So it's as of right now an allowable practice. I feel that communication is key. And I think that, and this will kind of bridge us to the next piece here, that this is something that I'm adding into my highest and best. So has anybody on this call ever been involved in a highest and best offer on one of my properties? If yes, put something in the chat box while I try to look something up here.
Hey, Bill, while you're asking that question on Facebook, Maura McCabe is asking, with all these offers going way over asking, what are you seeing with the houses appraising if there is a mortgage involved?
Great question. Believe it or not, I have not seen a lot of appraisal issues. I was just in the middle of one. John Rondi saved the day. It underappraised by $125,000 with the one lender, and Harbor One ordered a expedited appraisal that just came in at full value. That's a $1.1 million transaction that I have both sides of off market. So that was one that I was actually sweating. Now the process of appraisals are starting to become a little issue, but for some crazy reason, it's not nearly as profound as I thought it would be. Like, I've been watching a lot of properties appraise at numbers. I'm like, there's no way this thing's going to appraise, and it does. So I'm not sure. I guess the appraisers are really taking into consideration the fact that the market's running here. And for those that aren't, we've been able to bridge that gap, with relative ease. We've only had a few fall apart with appraisal issues. From the team's perspective, I think we got somewhere in the 70s under contract right now, 70 something. And I want to say only 2 have fallen apart for appraisal issues. I'd have to double check those numbers, but it's not as prevalent as you think. And once these start to close out, so we're nearing the end of the first real bidding war cycle. This started about 60 days ago to this level. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to start to see all these things close out, which is great because it's going to give us a healthy new set of comps coming on the market. Right now is the biggest disparity because the consumer knows they got to bid way up, but none of this stuff is closed out yet. So I'm even in pricing listings, I'm calling my under contract agents in that market and I'm saying, hey, how far over asking did you go? Was it exponentially over? Because I want to gauge on where this market is. Because if I'm just going off of what their asking prices are or what comp numbers are, from what would be a normal appraisal purpose, I'm going to significantly underprice the property now. I still don't want to go at the top, like I said before. But I'm not personally seeing, outside of a few select instances, which we've been able to get through, real big issues like across the board with appraisals. Anybody else experiencing that?
I did in the beginning more of this. My Cutler underappraised $25,000. We got the buyer to come in and pay $10,000, so he kind of met us. My Park Hill underappraised also in the beginning of this. And the buyer also came up with $10,000 for the short, but so they kind of like negotiated. The buyer came up 10, the seller lost 15. So basically in both cases, for mine, a 2-family on Cutler and Clifton and a 1-family Cape, they both did the same thing. What I'm doing now though, is we're seeing a little more, which we don't normally see in Clifton, is it's not subject to appraisal. So my Edwards sold for $456, underappraised by $11,000. The buyer wrote that in the contract and made good and brought the $11,000 to closing. And Mayflower, also waived appraisal, and I was sweating it. And I actually asked him for the comps. He was like, that actually appraised higher. So to your point, now, right, the ones right now are starting to appraise for higher.
Yeah.
So I did get the under appraisals, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Yep. I love it. Yeah. So more, I mean, that's, I guess the answer there is just, I would expect in this market to see it a lot more. I'm just not, I'm not seeing it as much as we would imagine we would see it. I want to show you guys what I'm sending out. And I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing. Nat, can you do me a favor and enable screen sharing for me, please?
Yes, I just made you the host. You should have the ability.
Okay. All right. So this brings us to communication in handling multiple bid situations. So this goes out on any property that we're calling for a bidding war on with the Basel IOSA group. And what I'm doing now is adding one of these dots that say, be sure to note whether your client has multiple offers in or not on other properties, right? So that part of this bidding situation is I know, and if they're just lying, then that's a whole nother story. But at least I'm asking if they're going to disclose if there's other open offers in, because I'm telling you, I don't want to choose the buyer who's doing that unless I know they're going to stick with that property. If their offer is exponentially higher than anybody else, who knows? Maybe I'll say, okay, we want a $2,000 non-refundable deposit then. Just try to tweak it in a way that would make them commit to this property, so I don't have to worry about shutting down all my highest and best and then having them back out. So we just say, please see the following regarding your submission for 59 Eaton Place, offer submission in Bloomfield. At this time, multiple offers have been received. And at this time, no offers are with myself or my team. If there are offers with myself or my team, that states it. And then it says to send the offers to our managing broker, Kieran. This says we're dedicated to full transparency and we'll be handling this multiple offer situation in the following manner. All highest and best offers need to be submitted by Wednesday, 7/1 at 5 p.m. Please follow these directions for submission. Email offers to me. Again, if there was somebody on my team, it would go to Kieran. Mark subject as offer, Eaton. I want to make sure all the subjects look the same so I don't miss one. Those of you who get a lot of emails, some of these people just send an offer. It doesn't even say the property and the subject. It'll say something totally different. Next thing you know, a day later, you're like, oh my God, this was an offer. So offers on Eaton, the seller would prefer a quick closing date with the option of a use and occupancy after closing to find their property to purchase. If this is not possible, a longer closing date would be preferred. By the way, our top 2 offers on this property got this. We're closing on this property next week and they have till October to find their next property. Me putting this in there created that perfect scenario where we're closing quick, everything's done, removes the contingency. Now we can go shopping for their next house and make sure that they lock that up. Takes a lot of the fear out of it for the sellers too. Kindly include signed sales contract, seller's disclosure, lead paint, pre-qualification letter in one email. I don't want 10 emails, along with any personal letter. Even if you've already provided it, I don't want to be chasing around 75 personal letters. I want it all in one spot. I'll send them over. If the offer is cash, waiving appraisal, setting an appraisal floor, or limiting home inspections, clearly indicate those specifics in the contractual provision section. Cash offers must include proof of funds. Any home sale contingency must be clearly stated in the contractual provision section and the appropriate addendum. And now I'm adding here, please clearly indicate whether your client is making multiple offers on multiple properties so that we have all that. This is part of that just clear communication. So we set this up. We don't just send this to everybody who put an offer in. We send this to everybody who showed the property. So this property, we had maybe 40 showings. This went to every single person. And again, that's all part of getting in front of as many people as possible, trying to create that frenzy. This was due 7/1. Highest and best was due 7/1. This went out 2 days in advance. So this was I would bet you June 30th was a Monday. Watch me be like way off here. So let's go back to June 29th. Okay, it was a Tuesday. So in this case, we said that we'd probably be reviewing any offers on Monday. Then on Tuesday, we called for highest and best. And then everything was due by that Wednesday, 7/1. And then we made our decision. I put all the offers in a spreadsheet. And then just the spreadsheet gets sent to the seller with no names. It's just the terms. How much, down payment, pre-approval, any unique pieces, is there a letter included, and close date. That's it. We keep it real simple. We weed out the bottom, 80%, and then we just look at the best ones and go through detail there. Anybody have any thoughts, comments, or feedback on that one? All right. And now, so the last thing that I wanna talk about here, guys, is how to handle the conversation once you've picked an offer to go with, right? So once you have an offer that's agreed upon, well, with that seller, I highly advise you not to go back and tell every other person that they didn't get it immediately. Wait until you send it out, get your seller's signatures, preferably get in review. And if it moves fast enough, get one review letter from the buyer's attorney first before you let everybody else know. Most of these things that are going to fall apart in the first day. That's not to say that they all do, but most of them do fall apart in the first day. The challenge is when you go and tell everybody they didn't get the winning bid here, and then your winning bid backs out, it becomes a really awkward position for you to then follow up again and try to, oh, hey, I'm back. Actually, the winning bid, changed some terms on us. It's now somebody's already thought they lost this property. That's not really the best position to be in from a seller perspective. So you can't wait days on this. That would not be, ethically sound. I would not support that in any way. But if it's 8 p.m, you get this thing out to the attorneys, you might want to wait a couple hours the next morning to make sure that everything's good before you tell, everybody. Maybe you tell the people who really don't have a shot, but you want to make sure that this is definitely the deal that's going to go through before letting those other people know. And again, pick your 1 or 2 best backups. And in a lot of cases, I would suggest committing to going back and forth with them on a weekly basis just to touch base and make sure that buyer's still there. Because that's power for you as a seller if they ask for a million things on inspection. It's power for you as a seller if they're asking for money off an appraisal, if you got 2 people in backup position. Anybody else? Thoughts, ideas, feedback when it comes to how to communicate back to and guys, you can do email. I prefer a phone call. Sometimes it's not possible. If it's my backups, I'm always calling them, right? Some people just text, hey, sorry, you didn't get the bid. Okay, I'm not going to fault you for that. If I have 9 bids, 7 are garbage, top 2, they go with the 1 and the other one's backup, I'm on the phone with that backup because I may need that person to be my best friend in a couple of weeks. And I want to handle it in a way. I have this in Clifton right now. I got a property under contract that they lost that bid. I called the backup. I had a great conversation. She's from out of the area. She goes, I just want to let you know I've never had such a positive conversation after losing a bidding war, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? A couple of days later, that fell apart. And guess who was right there is that agent. We have to maintain those relationships with the backup. there are a lot of agents right now where this stuff's hitting the fan. They don't even tell people. Like later that night or the next day, somebody's reaching out and saying, hey, I'm just checking on the status. Oh, sorry, you didn't get it. And people are like, are you going to tell me? I got to tell my client. That is not the way that I would suggest handling that and keeping a good rapport with the agent community so that if you need them to have your back, they're going to come and have your back. I would absolutely encourage you to make sure that you put together a really good just as good communication method with the agents as you do with your own clients, following every single bidding war, because that is night and day. And keeping those, and this is a selfish way to look at it. You should do it because it's the right thing to do. You should do it because that's what you would want somebody to do to you. And you should do it because their clients are going to want to know. And that's fair. If you got a family sitting there wondering if they have a place and you're not telling. But if none of those work, the selfish reason you should do it is to keep a great relationship with them. In case the one backs out, you can go back to them and have a great backup and a really good, smooth transition. So I highly recommend making sure that you make and prioritize that communication, post bidding war to keep everyone on your side, because you may need one or two of those people there. All right, we're winding down here, guys. What else?
I have a question, Bill.
Sure.
Because I feel like I'm getting emails all over the place. So I was trying to separate the offers to go to a different place, but the COVID forms and the pre-approvals before they go see an appointment. And so, you know, what ends up happening is they're sending that to one place. And then before I know it, they're not, even though it says clearly in the remarks, offers to Rosado team. There's offers everywhere, you know, so I feel like the agents don't read, don't follow through.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, I love your letter. Totally love your letter. Definitely going to R&D that for sure. Prior to that letter going out, I'm already like seeing people do things all over the place. And so when I have to go back to talk to people, sometimes like to your point, like I didn't even know that they were in that other email with an offer. So how do you kind of manage all those COVID forms and all that stuff?
So the COVID forms, I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I don't manage that. I do have.
That's going to a different email.
Yeah, that goes to a different email, and there are people on the team whose responsibility is to follow up to make sure that all those are handled correctly. But as far as the offers go, I have yet to send that out with those clear offer instructions and have an offer go to a different email address. But that email is also coming from the email address that I want it to go to, unless it's the managing broker. But every time, even when I put to send them to Kieran, everybody always sends them to Kieran. So I haven't encountered it going to the wrong email yet. I think if you're sending it from one email though, and you want it to go to another, I think, let's say you have an email, offers@therosadogroup.com. I think that instruction email should come from that offers email, right? To bring it there so that they see that.
But my problem's before that, because I'm having them send the COVID forms to admin at Rosado team, right?
Yeah.
And then next thing I know is, even though it says in remarks, offers to offers at Rosado team, they're going to the admin. Or if someone who's dealt with me in the past and knows that I'm Francis at Francis Rosado, we're finding offers in there. It doesn't matter how clear and big. If you look at my listings, it says it, but no one reads, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and look, here's the good thing. I mean, I hate to say it's good, but if you did miss an offer and it was clearly on paper because somebody didn't follow instructions, that's their fault, not yours, right? And that's something that maybe their clients should be made aware of. And the question is, you know, even from the seller perspective, this agent couldn't even read the instructions to get the offer in. And we're going to put the responsibility of closing our entire transaction and all the moving parts on their lap. I'm not so sure that that's somebody that I'm interested in, you know, working with moving forward either, because that can bring a whole nother element of chaos to itself. If she can't, or he can't follow instructions on how to submit an offer, just imagine what it would look like elsewhere. So I am going to show you guys, just to close out here, one of my offer spreadsheets, how we handle these, so you can see this too. When all the offers come in, just trying to find one that doesn't have anybody from our office on it. Not that it doesn't, not that it really matters, but I'll do an old one. Come on. All right, cool. So let me just make sure nobody's in our office. Of course, somebody is in our office here on this one. Here's the cool part. They weren't in our office when they put this offer in. So this is from a couple years ago. So I've been doing this for a really long time. Here's the screen share. Bear with me. Wrong one. I need an assistant with this stuff too. Why is that not showing up on my screen share options? Bear with me, guys.
Did you click new share?
Yeah, it's showing me basically every screen except the one that I want, the only one that I actually want.
What program is it in, Bill? Is it in your email or?
No, I have it in a window here, you know, a live window. I'm going to close this out.
Okay.
It's in Chrome.
While you're looking for that, Bill, does anyone have an aha they'd like to share from today's call while Bill's looking to pull that up? Does anyone have an aha from today's session that you want to share with our audience? Some nugget that you got today.
We got a lot of aha moments. I don't want to hog up this call though. So Bill, you gave a lot of stuff. Thank you, because I'm going to rip off and duplicate a lot of them.
What I'm here for.
What
Are you guys
happens in collaboration, guys? Come on, everybody talk.
Are you guys able to see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is an example of what I do. So I put or have put together on the back end this simple spreadsheet. So current offer price, loan type, total down payment, sale contingency, close date, pre-approval, agent. There's a new column in my newer ones that say letter, and I put a number next to letter. So this will be letter 1, letter 2, letter 3, letter 4, and I send those out so that my buyer can see which letter coincides with which offer. Now we have a list of agents here. This is for me to be able to see. This is not for the seller to be able to see. So before I send this to a seller, I will duplicate this, which is really easy. You go to File. I say it's really easy, right? Come on. Oh, I have to open it in Sheets. So if I open it inside of Google Sheets, bear with me. And then I go to File or Edit. It is File, Make a Copy. Make a copy. Current Clement offers. Maybe I'll put seller there. Okay. Now I have a copy of this. I will delete. I don't want them to see who the agents are for many reasons, right? That would not be something that I would want to pass along. I delete that column, and then I hit share. I type in my client's name. This was Jason Caleri's house. I would hit that. It would go to Jason Caleri. I would hit done, and it literally shoots the spreadsheet over to them. And if more offers come in, this can be a live spreadsheet. So we would change them. They would go up and down all around. This particular property had what, 13 offers on it. And they were in most of them were in order here of price. But look at this one at the top was clearly the winner. Most down payment, flexible closing. that one took the cake. So this is how I communicate the offers back to the seller so that the seller is able to see it. And if we say, all right, let's do this. Anything under 460, we're clearly not going to entertain. So let's cancel those out. We would, turn them, let's say red. And now let's just look at these three. Let's look at the terms. Let's look at the price. Let's see. Here's a note. Wants all showings and acceptance of other offers stopped. Right? Clearly, they didn't win that one. So if you do it this way, I just feel like it's a much easier process to duplicate. It saves you talking to the seller for hours and hours about any of these bidding wars, and just puts you in a much better spot. That's all I got today, guys. Thank you so much for those of you who were involved here on this. Francis, Pat, love the input, and we'll keep on keeping on. So I want to, again, continue to grow these masterminds on Mondays again. I know a lot of people are away and stuff in summer, but encourage everyone to plug in, share your ideas, share your thoughts. And, again, best practices. I want to see what you guys do. If anyone ever wants to share a screen, that screen's open for you. And just keep on keeping on.
Thanks, Bill. Have a good
Thanks, Bill.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.